All right, welcome back to another episode of What the Puck Podcast with Cowtowngoalie, Mike. Thanks, Mike, for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me on the show. It's actually
awesome background, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's the only three things I could actually put up down here in the basement. So, I don't have a good backdrop or anything.
Yeah. That works.
My first podcast, and
no shit, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, my friends, they don't really do computers too much, and they're always busy, which means that they're lazy is what they are, really, kind of.
Right.
Yeah, they don't. They didn't, get on using computers up until I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that. So they, I help them, with IT because that's where I work, but, it ends there. So, yeah, it's definitely my first podcast. I've done lots of interviews, but I usually just have a blanked out background. So I tried to hockey it up.
It's good. It's good. Do you you talk a lot of hockey when you do these interviews?
Well, for job interviews, yeah, I mentioned.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's my bad.
Oh yeah, I mean, I mentioned that I play hockey and and volunteer and stuff to be a net for the kids travel team. But I mean, I worked in IT since I was 18, and I'm hopefully finally going to be able to get out of it because it's been over 20 some years and I'm done.
Really?
Yeah, the switch from work, because I always used to be the IT guy in the office where you could walk up or call and small business, some smaller businesses and stuff. And then when it became work from home, I'm so burned out on it. So,
yeah,
I'm
sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Switching careers at a time when you're, in the middle of your life where you're just, I'll be ready to drive the school bus. I'll tell you that. I'll do anything other than IT.
Just like that. Well, yeah. No, I feel like I had a career change when I was about 31, so I understand completely. But you're from Nebraska?
Kansas City metro area.
Okay.
Suburb right outside of Kansas City.
Okay.
On the Kansas side, which is the good side. But we're, I live a 15-minute drive from Kansas City, Missouri. So, I'm like right on the border. We have a street called State Line Road, and that splits, them in two. And it's totally two different worlds when it comes to, laws and rules and just about everything, really.
Yeah, I've never been out that far. But what's the hockey scene like?
The hockey scene, we are not a hockey town.
That's unfortunate.
Most people have, even when I started playing, ice hockey, especially, until Gretzky went to LA, nobody knew what hockey was here. It was all the Chiefs, Kansas City Chiefs football, and the Kansas City Royals. Now we have Sporting KC, the soccer team, and we had a minor league team when I was younger, like in middle school and stuff. It was the
Blades.
It was the Blades. Yeah, they're the farm team for the Sharks.
Yeah,
and
I had one of the jerseys back in the day.
Yeah, they. We went to. I went to the first game. We used to go to quite a few games. The announcer was my original goalie coach.
Oh, shit! Really? Wow.
And I think the league folded. But they would come out and visit us sometimes, and I got to take some of their shots, and it was definitely an eye opener. Because I was still in middle school or high school, so I played. I started. What happened? I was at grade school, and they would pass around flyers for here's going to be the roller skate, party, and then they passed around one. It was called "Sign Up for Polar," and had a picture of a bear, in hockey, a drawing of a bear playing hockey. And I saw it, and I took it home to my mom, and I was like, "Hey, Mom, can I do this?" And she, she agreed, and I did I was 7, 6, 7. It was pretty early, and I did 2 sessions of polar, which is learn to play hockey. And then a parent suggested that she sign me up for the league, which it was a private league. It was the whole city. We could form maybe 4 to 5 teams, low number teams, of course, at any
Right.
given time. And when you started young, you grew up with the same kids year after year after year. Some new kids would come on. A lot of the people who came in were, as we call, displaced Northerners, because hockey. South of Kansas City, there obviously wasn't hardly any hockey at all back then. In the mid '80s, but the only people who move to Kansas City, it's either for a job or family, because it's a nice town. But the weather here is, it's not good.
Right.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
the worst of the worst Midwest weather. I mean, it's going to get warm now. It could, if it wanted to, snow tomorrow. It could be 85 degrees tomorrow. And it's constant, change. So, but we'd have people who would come in and they'd be from Minnesota and they'd automatically be like better than us and stuff like that. But it was just a small private league, and what ended up happening, my first year of real hockey, I wasn't a natural. I mean, it took me forever to learn how to skate.
Same here. 3 years.
I played out. I have a kind of a flashback to like my first goal, which might have been my only goal I've ever scored. But I loved it, and so my mom signed me up for the second year, and she worked. We come from a civil service family. She was a manager at the Postal Service. My grandfather, retired from the Postal Service.
All right, can I stop you right there? I work for the United States Postal Service, so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, they pay for most of my equipment now. So continue.
Yeah. Civil service, was in our
Shit.
family. My great grandfather was a police officer in Philadelphia, so our family came from Philadelphia. My grandfather just moved out here to go to school. He was actually an ordained Baptist minister, and he taught for a little while, but he ended up working at the post office. But so, Philadelphia Flyers was, one of my teams growing up. And of course, the Blues and the Blackhawks are pretty, they're kind of like our teams because it's the closest pro teams we got.
Just say, yeah. What's around you? I was gonna say Blues because of St. Louis and Missouri. Yeah. So, but you started hockey pretty young, so that's quite, that's a good accomplishment right there.
Yeah, I mean, I was very blessed. I mean, my dad and mom, they were junior high sweethearts. I mean, they were together for a long time. I mean, they were young parents. I mean, my dad was barely 19 and my mom was still almost, wasn't even 18 yet, when I was born. And, she graduated school a year early. They bought a small starter house in the starter neighborhood when they were like 23, which at 18% interest in the 80s, which is like unheard of. These days, 23 buying a house, if when you're working people. But my dad, he was a good dad. He always visited. He always paid his child support, which we didn't even have to go. My mom didn't have to go through the courts or anything. They just set a number and he just paid it every month. He was late maybe once for a few days for things, but that's,
we're all human. Yeah, I understand.
He was a good dad, and that's the only reason why I was able to play hockey, and then especially goalie, because how I became a goalie, my first year we were playing out. They'd have it like a minute and a half, and then would buzz, and then we'd switch to the next line, and because we were mites, which would almost be mini mites now when I first started. And my second year, I was playing out, and that's what, they start rotating kids in and out of the net, to see who sticks, to see who would be able to work out as goalie, who, it liked it. and seemed to do pretty well at it. And, I remember one of my, they had, we had no equipment. We had two rinks. One ended up closing. It was called Fox Hill. It was just a real rink, rink, small pro shop, video game room.
Right.
But it was in an area that was expanding rapidly, and the land value of just where the rink was sitting on became so high that they basically told the owner or the owners, it's like, you're never going to make as much money from this, with this rink than we're going to offer you for this land. And
put up condos instead of get rid of the rink. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it went into like
that's depressing to hear, though. But I mean, the real world.
It was kind of on the easternmost side and south, which was an area that was more affluent, and it was growing. And so we got to play there for a few years. That's where I started Polar. And our other place in town was, we called it King Louis, and it was like one of the first in our area, and in some areas where it had all in one. It had a real bowling alley, upstairs, 30 some lanes, had an arcade, with full of games, and had a true billiard room, where you rented the balls, with ID, and, they had snooker tables and stuff. And then downstairs was the ice rink. And, it was tight on space. Our locker rooms were very small. But, after Fox Hill closed, it was all we had until, you had to go to St. Joe, Missouri, which is farther north, and they had a really nice rink. So those were really the only places, where we could play. There was a separate team from the league. It was the Carriage Club, which is one of the country clubs here, and they had their own half-sized outdoor ice rink. And
oh, no shit.
Yeah, and they had their own team. People who whose parents obviously were at the country club.
Yeah, had some money.
Yeah, they had their own team, and when they were younger, their team was bigger, but the older we got, their team got smaller and smaller, just because kids start becoming teenagers and they want to do other stuff, and so it got kind of smaller. They always still had a team, but wasn't as big as it was. But we were able to squeeze out 4, 5 teams, and that was the whole metro area. My second year, as they were doing the rotations, I have a brief memory of, they had a pair of leather loaner pads. They weren't even Cooper. I don't
really
know. It was, yeah, picture.
Joff?
They had. They didn't have any brand name that I saw from the pictures. They were, they had hockey tape on them to tape the whole stuff, shut. I remember.
Cowhide, yeah, peeling out. Yeah.
I remember, like, one of my first memories is that the cotton would fall out. There was holes at the top of the pad, and it would fall out, and I would step on it with my skate, and it was kind of slippery. So that was one of my first memories of being in net and
falling on your ass. Whoops.
Yeah, and they rotated.
Don't do that again.
Oh, it was, we had flat sticks. Our gloves were actually, they didn't have any webbing. They were straight up just catchers and stuff. But they saw that I did pretty well, so I don't remember playing out a lot my second year. My third year was my last year of mites, and even though the team pictured, we did pictures when we first started, when we were practicing, I was actually in playing out gear. When they put me in the net, and they just left me there. And that's, how I became a goalie. Our coach, for my third year, his name was Dr. Stuckey is what we called him. And he was a surgeon, but he played goalie for Harvard.
Oh, shit.
And so he was
my neck of the woods. Okay.
Yeah. He, and he was like a surgeon, but he.
Oh, yeah, Harvard. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, but he, saw that, I had the knack for goalie and kind of like my first goalie tutor and stuff like that. And then after that, I was cemented as a goalie. And
All it takes. All it takes. Wow.
so of course, I always had used equipment because they'd always have the swap and shop before the season. And eventually on I would get equipment like a new helmet or a new glove, new sticks and stuff like that. But my first chest protector was the double piece arms and chest snap. And then it was right as technology was starting to get better. So I went from like a leather pair of Coopers to the Cooper Durasofts with the suede,
Yep.
which
Oh yeah.
were awesome. But yeah, after it's funny, after a couple of years playing with them, that suede was no longer soft. It crusted up. And
Yeah, I remember that. It was crunchy. When you put your hand in that glove, it was crunchy. And I had
yeah,
used Coopers. Yeah, so I know
yeah.
exactly what you're talking about.
And for us to even get equipment, I mean, we had we had to like go to out of town to like St. Joe because they had a pro shop. Or I remember my first rollerblades I got, we ordered when we were in a tournament in Minnesota, and they came from Canada. They were ultra wheels. There used to just be rollerblade and ultra wheels, and I was the first kid in town to have a pair, so everybody was like, "What are those? Those are awesome!" And I would skate at the rink with them, and of course, later on, they were everywhere. They exploded, and that I saw people like doing skateboard tricks and rail sliding, and I never really got good at rollerblading. I could skate around the track, but I mean, I was always used to ice. And what happened is you get into squirts, and then you get in to the peewees and bantams and the other levels. But what started to happen as I got older, I became the only goalie in my age group, because every 2 years you'd go up to the next level. And it wasn't long before I was the only goalie in my age group. They would always have to bring a goalie up from every other year. They'd have to bring a goalie up to cover the other side, or they brought a goalie down, to play, to fill in. And I played a lot of games when it really kicked in. When I was the only one, for every one game, if someone would play, I would play two, sometimes three, all in a
Jeez.
row, all in a weekday, before school. And or on during the work week. So school, you had school the next day. And for me, no matter how physically exhausted I was, I could never go to sleep because my mind was still running. It was still running at full speed because you of the concentration and of everything. So I didn't get much sleep growing up. But
Sounds it.
you
3 games in one day. That's
yeah,
tough.
we get typically 12 minutes because everything had to be cut down to the minute because of the only rink.
Right.
I mean, so we'd have 12-minute periods. So we get
They
36.
stop. They have stoppage. Like you mean to
Not
say?
after mites. It was
Really?
after mites. It was you jump. You switched out
Running
real.
clock?
Yeah. Well, it stopped the clock. Oh, I meant.
Okay, what's up? Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember they stopped the clock. We do 12 minutes back when I was a squirt night. No, I mean squirts and like bantams and peewees. It was always 12 minutes, but they would stop. So
Yeah, they did. We did clock stops. We had refs. We had a scoreboard, and
yep.
we actually had glass instead of like chain link fencing, like some of the.
The chain link fence sounds so fucking cool. I've seen videos. It's so fucking
Yeah,
cool.
they had that in Jefferson City, but
Really? Shit. They still
yeah,
have it? Or is it gone now?
I don't know if they have a rink anymore. My old buddy, he who I grew up playing with, he actually got banned from Jefferson City. The whole he tried to beat up a ref. He had a temper.
Oh, okay. Happy
And
Gilmore.
yeah, and they told him and his parents, never come back. And when they said that, they meant the whole city. And which Jefferson City, I mean, it's not a real big loss. It's, it's quite a drive. There's nothing there.
Still,
Um,
just don't come back. Okay, see ya.
So yeah, we had
Anyways.
12 minutes, stoppages, face-offs, all that. And when you play two games, one game would be 36 minutes of clock time, two games, 64. And then if I had to play a third game, because Carriage Club also lost their goalie, so I got to play goalie for the Carriage Club too. They'd give me a small, very small jersey, extra jersey they have, and then put it on, stuff me in there, and then, of course, take it back. And so when you do 30, 60, 90, so it was 96 minutes of clock time up to, on a weekday. And our time slots were, it was the 7:15, the 8:30 p.m., and then the 9:45 p.m. So if I did all three games, when we had, we were able to have that many teams, you started 9:45 to 10:45. You had a D gear. It was the old gear, so it took forever. And I still take forever. But
same here.
And it was exhausting. And but I how the civil service is. You work for the postal service. There's no there's no stopping. There's no pushing through. You push through, you don't complain, you just do what you got to do.
I mean, I don't know about complaining, but not me per se, but I feel you. I feel you.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, it amazes me that you started so young, because I talk to a lot of goalies, especially on YouTube, and they're in their, early 40s, late 30s. They're like, I just picked it up. I'm like, I'm 38 right now. 10 years ago, you learned to skate, stop a puck with my face. I couldn't do that. Like, fuck that. I mean, I started skating when I was 3 years old on a pond.
Oh, wow.
And then I moved into playing hockey when I was 6. It took me a good 3 years to learn how to play hockey, let alone skate. So it just amazes me that, like, some guys can just pick it up like that. I'm like, shit. But with you, it's good to hear that, like, hey, I started young. I mean, I started young. So I think that's where it starts, really. I mean, if you're really dedicated to the sport, start young. So
yeah, I was very lucky.
Same here. I was very I wouldn't say spoiled, but I was privileged. I'm one of 4 brothers, and we all played hockey. So of course I was the one that became the goalie. So I drove my parents crazy.
Yeah, they when they see you playing, and they know it's not only that you get kind of tenderized when you do it, and also the price. We all know about the price of goaltending,
right?
So I mean, it was a blur, absolute blur during those years when I was the only goalie.
I can just imagine.
I was still playing in leather pads. I was trained. My second kind of goalie coach, he goes by Steve Garrett. He was on the radio, and he was the announcer for the Blades. And for the longest time, the announcer we have a minor league team, the Mavericks, KC Mavericks, and he did announcements for them for, a long time too. But he's the one who convinced my mom to send me to hockey camps or goalie camps during the summer, because I would play the winter league, the summer, spring league, and then, do some camps during the summer. And he, he's the one who kind of helped, tell my mom, there's more things out there, I mean, Mike seems, he does pretty well. And, those camps, you learn a lot, especially as a kid. And definitely. He was, his kid, he played hockey too. And then, years later because I stopped right after high school. And he ended up started playing goalie, as you said, in his later years. He's just like, well, I want to play goalie, and he did really well. He started. I mean, I don't know what age. I didn't know ages back then, but he started playing as a goalie as an adult and played for many, many years. And I think, he might have had an injury or something that just it just didn't make it viable anymore, from what I heard. Because I left hockey, after high school, and so I was the only goalie, and I played a lot of games, and I wasn't a natural, but playing games, we were, the money's on the line, the win or lose, refs, numbers, or I'm sorry, time on the clock and all that. That's what really helped me get better. The practices, you just skated the skating drills everyone else did, and then they shot pucks at you.
I remember. I remember that too well.
Yeah, maybe a little scrimmage at the end, but it was tough. But the games really, is what really helped me become a better goalie. And I played pure stand up, and that was the style when I first started. Steve Garrett, Mr. Garrett, gave me a tape called Hot Goaltending, which was made in like 1988, and it was an instructional video that was an hour long, and it was straight stand up. Absolutely straight stand up. There's even a portion it's like, why go down, when you could, be up to be able to cover more area. It had like a nose symbol of someone doing like an old butterfly and stuff. And I watched that tape before every game. The labels were. But there's a YouTuber, Leafs fan, and he actually digitized a copy and has it up on YouTube, because I still have the tape. I don't know if it works or not.
VHS?
Yeah, VHS. Yeah. But I watched it before every game, and it was, pure stand up, and that's, the kind of style I played. And as I got older is when they started, technology got better. You had full chest protectors that were connected, like the Cooper deflector, defender, which had some design flaws where the arms were separated from the chest protector, even though it was all in one. And
they almost looked like football pads.
Yeah, they were huge.
Yeah.
And they made you look like made you look like you had an even bigger belly than I had, but they didn't have a lot of plastic in them. So it was always growing up, when someone's breaking out or, winding up for a slap shot, you're like, all right, this is going to hurt.
You're like, yeah, you keep your glove up. You're like,
oh yeah. You're like, this is going to hurt. So let's do it. And, a lot more stingers, back then.
So what year do you think this was?
That would have been, the 88, 89.
That's when you were playing?
Well, I started in 80. I think the 84, 85 season on a team, and I played. I'll make
you feel old, but I was born in 86, so.
Yeah. I'm an older goalie.
No, because when you say like stand up, and then like Patrick Waugh comes around, and like, as being from 20 minutes north of Boston, growing up a Bruins fan, I love Patrick Waugh. I mean,
oh yeah,
he's the best goalie that I've ever seen play. So that's when I was like, oh, I want to be like him. So I copied his style, and that's when I started doing like the butterfly. I wouldn't call my style a butterfly. I don't think I could really butterfly even to this day, but that's why I was like, oh, I want to be like Patrick. I'm going to idolize everything he does. I'm going to play like him. So I kind of could see the comparison where you're like watching a video of how you stand up and stuff, but I was kind of the other way. I was the opposite. Yeah. But I'm a firm believer in it doesn't matter what style you have, as long as you stop the puck, you give shit. Up, down, left, right, stack the pads, make the save. Who cares?
Yeah, they found out. I mean, that's the one thing about goalie. It doesn't matter who you are, where you came from. If you can stop a puck, really stop a puck, you've got a net waiting for you. You've got equipment loaning waiting for you. You've got ice time waiting for you. Because there's always usually, there's always a goalie shortage. Obviously, I went through one.
Still is. Even in beer league.
Yeah. They. I got accepted for college to the University of Minnesota just off a straight application. They didn't.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I mentioned I played hockey. but yeah, it was just kind of, I met their academic standards and stuff. And, long story short, I mean, they even sent me letters, and I went up to Rush for Sigma Phi Epsilon, um, and I was real
Nice.
excited. But my parents were like, when it started to get time to like pay for it, they're like, "So how are you going to pay for that?"
Yeah.
Because they didn't, well, once I turned, 18, they're like, "You're done." And my mom, she
uh,
might have been able to make the tuition, which was expensive even for back then. They ran on trimesters, and I she made more. She made too much to get a Pell Grant, even though I told them it's like, dude, she's not paying for anything. I mean, what?
that's disgusting. You make too much money. We can't help you out.
Yeah, and it's like, well, she's not going to pay for it. I mean, how is that fair? I'm an adult, but so I never ended up getting to go to college. I did get accepted, which was good, but it was actually towards the end of my senior year. I actually got a job in IT at a place that was, a block away from the high school. So I just started working, and I also, after my senior year, there wasn't a lot of hockey, above the junior level at that time because they just had one rink. Um, KU, they didn't have really a team at all. And I started hanging out with with my friends who were musicians and stuff, and just that was it. I kind of retired. I retired and just moved on.
Which is
To
normal. Very normal.
yeah, moved
I mean,
on.
I have a similar story. I understand what you're saying. So that was the ice.
Yeah,
So I do want to talk about, not to like cut you off, but where does the roller hockey come into play?
well, that one is a pretty cool story. It was during the pandemic, and
Okay.
I was actually started. I think I coached that roller derby team, which I'll talk.
That's what I want to hear. So what happened first, the roller hockey or the roller
Uh,
derby?
well, the roller derby happened first.
Okay, all right. Let's hear about
It was,
that.
yeah, it was over. It was like 2011, 2012.
Okay, wow. So yeah,
And I was
and yeah,
a
12 years
friend from
ago.
school. They started there was already a league, but they started a new league that had a different rule set that was just created. And a friend from high school, was playing, did it, the roller derby for the first year. And, and she mentioned to me, and she's like, oh, you should, come try to be a referee or something. And they, there's a lot of talking, back and forth in roller derby. I mean, these, especially a women's team, they are very, very huge.
I've noticed.
Yeah, I mean, like, just assertive, like very high confidence in themselves. Very, I mean, they're amazing. And they had let go their coach, and then because I learned the thing, just keep showing up until they throw you out. So, and I also
Good advice.
followed, it was a time when I followed that character in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where he said that one day where he decided to say yes to everything instead of no. And so when she said, "Hey, you want to do roller derby?" I was like, "Well, yes." It's like, "Hey, you want to be a coach?" And I was like, "Yes." And it's kind of like Seinfeld, where George did the opposite of what he always did and had the best day of
And he
his
was
life.
smart, right?
And so,
Uh,
I became the coach of roller derby. I still had my roller blades from when I was a kid. They were awful. But what happened is, in the beginning, we were just doing a leisure skate, kind of like how you do as kids, at the roller rink. And my best friend, she slipped and fell, just a normal looking slip and fall, and she got a tri-radial fracture on her
ugh,
ankle.
ugh.
And they had to take her out in the ambulance. I I went, to the hospital. It was in North Kansas City, um, to be with her, and they triaged her as like a sprained ankle. So she's sitting there and she's writhing in pain, and it's taken forever. It's taken forever. And I finally kind of stepped out behind the curtain, and I saw someone, and I guess she was, the head, she was running the show, in the ER. And I said, sorry to bug you, but, my friend's, really in a lot of pain. And I was wondering if you could look at it. And she walked in and removed the sheet, saw her ankle, and I swear her eyes doubled in size. And then she put the sheet back.
Holy shit.
She walked behind the curtain and she just starts yelling, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this now. And sure enough, they came right in, wheeled her in, knocked her out, did the x-ray, this or that. It was the first time I ever seen like where they had x-rays, on an iPhone, and saw it. And, she had to get titanium. So, unfortunately her career ended.
Oh, shit.
So, but I was still the coach, and I'm with, a bunch of, I'm with a bunch of people who I haven't really met too much, with a sport that I didn't even know the rules to. And it was a new rule set. So that kind of helped, because we all kind of learned at the same time. And so, I was just thrown right into it. And I was one of the few coaches who actually skated. A lot of the coaches, for the other teams, they would walk on, for practices, especially they would, they wouldn't be on skates. They'd be walking around the rink and stuff. I was one of the few people who could skate. I wasn't in the.
You're in the trenches.
Yeah, but
that says a lot.
They saw that I was skating, and putting in an effort. And it was a year. We had a family tragedy in 2007, and I kind of took a path that wasn't healthy. And when I finally
life happened.
Yeah, when I finally started roller derby, it's like, look, you're going to play this square like you did when you played hockey. You didn't drink, smoke, do nothing, this or that. You played by the rules. And I said, look, so it actually cleaned up my act, and we lost quite a few players during the season. And so we ended up being a small team, where we could barely squeeze out 2 lines. And so we, unfortunately, we lost, every game except for the last game in the tournament, which actually gave us third place in the tournament, which was absolutely amazing.
Shit.
And, we went to
so you got some redemption out of it.
Yeah, we won St. Joe too. So we had, a couple wins, but, we didn't have a lot of players. And so, it was an amazing experience. When I did practice, I actually had them do like hockey drills where, they had a bunch of balls, kick balls, and I'd have them like hold the kick ball and then do them like, you skate, go backwards between the blue lines, turn around, cross over behind, we actually brought out the nets and where the net
nets for roller derby.
Yeah, I actually brought out dragged out a net, and
that's great. That's awesome.
And then checks, we had had him kind of check someone, in the corner, and then do a breakaway, and then try to throw a ball past me. Oh no, we didn't have nets. I just put up cones. That's right. To throw a ball past me, and
pylons,
and we had a flood, so I was down to just like a helmet, a set of gloves, and a stick. But they're throwing, just kickballs at you, so it didn't matter. And some girls didn't like it, but a lot of girls did. I met one, and I saw one at the Royals game years later, and they said that was their favorite drill. Because I was trying to teach them how to do 2 things at once. To have something in your hand while also doing skating drills, and and then take, for fun, throw a ball, just to have them do, 2 things at once rather than skating. And I used to run extra practices at the old beat up outdoor rinks that we have up the road. Um, and mostly it was the first year players that came to those practices. Everyone came to the first one, and after that, it was always like 5 or 6, and they were the newest people. And I had them skate the circles, and then we'd practice. Where it's a race. It's basically you got your jammer with the star, and the way we play is that they skate, they take off, and when if the jammer is in the whoever jammer's in the lead, for every player they pass, you get a point. It's just like a race the way we played, and I'd run those drills. And actually, some of the girls that this was their first season, they're still playing. But I ran the extra practices. We won in the tournament, and then there's a lot of talking. I mean, I was off Facebook, but they used Facebook as communication. So, and there was always something, happening every day. Something.
Well, it's women. It's going to be drama no matter what. I remember seeing your picture online, like you were with the team, and I was like, man, you're around all these women. Like, that must be the best fucking job in the world.
Oh, they, I thought we talked dirt, bad words and stuff like that. It's nothing.
I can just imagine.
Oh gosh,
these women are more dirty than men.
Oh yeah.
No offense to that woke crowd, but still,
it's true. They said stuff where I'm like, man, because you get part. I didn't want to date anyone on the team or anything. I kept it professional, and when you do that,
yeah, you have to.
You get part of the conversation, and the things they said, it like, oh my god,
get to church. You need church.
Yeah, and so we did have a losing team, and one of the coaches, there's one team had 2 coaches, and they started the first year. He wanted to coach his own team, and putting all the chit chatting aside, I stepped down and and let him coach and let him have his assistant coach play. I said, I mean, I had a losing season. They wanted him, and they're like, oh, but you could still be an assistant coach. And I was like, no, it's his thing. I mean, those are the breaks. You learn to win, learn to lose, and so
good advice. Learn to win, learn to lose. I like that.
Yeah, because you do both a lot when you play a lot.
I know. Been there, done that.
And so that was years ago, but jumping forward to
I was gonna say, so you did the roller derby, and then you got into the I'm not too big on the roller skating, but it's like you went to roller hockey.
Yeah,
We don't have too much of that around here. I mean, in the summertime, it's pretty big. Yeah. But there's this one rink. It's in Saugus, Massachusetts. It's called Hockeytown USA. They have an upstairs, and they do a lot of floor hockey, deck hockey, and they also do BMX and jousting, which I believe got banned because too many kids were getting hurt.
Yeah, I can see
that. I know. I'm like, I see these guys one day. I was playing pickup in Hockeytown. We see these guys just carrying these giant BMX bikes. They're like, where you guys going? They're like, yeah, we do BMX jousting. I'm like, upstairs on the hockey court? They're like, yeah. I'm like, good luck to you.
Yeah.
As we're playing in the pickup, you see all these ambulances pull up and these EMTs running up the stairs. Like, wait, what's going on here? A kid broke his ankle. Kid got knocked out. So.
Oh yeah, that reminds me of that sport, that quote unquote sport they had that lasted very shortly, where they had the trampolines and the basketball. That was like
that didn't last long.
Yeah, after as many injuries as they had, it didn't last long. I grew up with a trampoline, so yeah, it's injury machine really. We during when the pandemic hit, I worked at an insurance company, but we were a satellite office. It was originally a private company, started up by Ken Schweitzer, and he built it up into, basically he did insurance processing just for credit unions. And I mean, he built it into basically a money printing machine, and he had no one to give it to. He had his daughter. She obviously didn't want to run it, and so he sold it to Megacorp down in Texas. And so while we worked for them, they were way down in San Antonio. So we still had the small office feel, and I was doing IT the way I liked, with small office IT and walk up call. And, it was kind of like a family, it was insurance. I thought I was going to be there forever because insurance ain't never going away.
Right. Well, yeah, I know.
Yeah. And they did insurance for investments. So we had regulations beyond regulations. It was a super secure thing. But when the pandemic hit, we had to get everybody set up to work from home over VPN. And, they were old school down there. I mean, you couldn't, it was like business casual was casual. You couldn't even have a tattoo, not a visible tattoo, a tattoo. The owners started it. They had grown up in the same small town together. They went to the same schools together. Weren't like best friends, but they all, were friends. And then they ended up working at the same insurance place together. And then in the late 70s, they're like, hey, let's start our own thing. And now they own most of the San Antonio Spurs.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not a basketball guy.
Oh,
Even though the Celtics are like gods around here.
Yeah. We have college basketball is big around here with KU and MU.
Yeah, just imagine the March Madness, all that shit, the betting.
Yeah, that's the only basketball that's around here. But they were old school, so like working from home, working remotely. I mean, you had to basically be someone who traveled or do something super special because they expected you in the office looking good. Straight up. I mean, it was like, like being in the Navy or something.
I was gonna say, yeah, fucking military standards.
Yeah. And
clean cut, no tattoos.
Oh yeah, it was
back straight. Yeah.
When they would come and visit every so often, girls would have to, if their hair was dyed purple, which was a style at the time, they had to re-dye it to a natural color, and everyone had to dress up. And they only visited so many times a year, so it was good. But when people started working from home, they noticed they were able to get the same output or even more with people working from home rather than the office. And, we're sitting there and we get a meeting that pops up, starting in 15 minutes, came out of nowhere, starting in 15 minutes, with basically the big boss from down there. And we go to the meeting, and just less than a year before, they're talking about, because they closed the Portland office, our sister office, they're saying, no, the stuff you guys do, we're going to keep you open, you're good people, this or that. That's the meeting. They said, we're closing their office permanently. And since I got to stay until the last date, because since it was such high security, I had to take inventory of everything, chain of command of hard drives, serial numbers on everything. And, I got let go. I got some free continuing education credits at Johnson County, got a small, I guess, stipend or whatever. And, unemployment, especially then, unemployment lasts a little longer. And I got my COVID shot when they first came out. And then I got my first booster. And it turns out that I had a bad reaction to boosters.
Really?
After 3 days, it would give me 15 days of COVID symptoms. I mean, exactly 15 days, because I had another one and it did the same thing. So I originally joined, I always had an Instagram account. I never really used it, but a buddy I grew up playing hockey with, he did some videos, some scripted comedy videos. And I wanted, I'd already learn the Facebook algorithm for making ads and stuff like that. So I went and kind of spammed up my my original Instagram account to try to learn the algorithm, learn the ad, the way the ads work, this or that. And it was a lot different. We got far more results on Facebook than Instagram, but I didn't add like real celebrities or like real popular people. I added people like they're, working in, maybe Hollywood, this or that, but, they were, not like superstars, but, I added people from all over the world. I took Japanese for 3 years in high school at a separate language school.
Very impressive, by the way. Japanese, very impressive. Wow.
Yeah, it's use it or lose it. So I know how to pronounce.
Oh, shit.
I know the sentence structure, but when it comes to words and reading, you got to study every day.
Have you been to Japan?
I never got to go. When I was, in high school, when I was taking it, the yen was very inflated, so the trip was like $4,000 or something to spend, however, like a week or whatever in Japan. So I never got to go, but it, and of course I did a year in community college. That didn't, I could only stand a year of it, and I took Japanese there and realized it's like you got to study every day or you're done or be over there.
I mean, yeah, I heard it's a wonderful place to go to. I mean, I know guys that go there. It's like, oh.
So that Squidburns account, I built it up, tried to learn the algorithm, made a lot of comments, this or that. And we realized it wasn't a good place to advertise. My buddy, he was in the Navy. And then after that, he became a military contractor. And, they go over, for however many months, come back, and he hurt his backs. So he wasn't able to do the video stuff anymore. So we kind of folded it. But, I started hanging out in the goalie group in Facebook. And, I'd see guys.
Goalie Yes Lux United?
It was the goalie verse or something. And people would ask questions. They were new to goalie, this or that. But I saw, people playing goalie. I saw people coming back to goalie. And I wasn't doing anything at the time except, doing that school thing. And, I really started to miss it. I first started like going to the rinks just to shoot pucks. I was so out of shape, I could barely last 20 minutes.
I'm still out of shape. I don't mean to cut you off, and my dog is crying. I think I might have to end it right now. I apologize. But we might have to return back to this conversation.
Yeah. And
I apologize. The daughter's crying. I got a newborn, a little girl. I love her. Here's the thing about her, though. She ain't going to be no goalie. She's going to be a figure skater.
Yeah.
I'm not paying for no pads.
Yeah.
But it was great talking to you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. And
I mean, you're awesome. We're going to revisit this in like a couple of weeks. Is that all right with you?
Oh, yeah, because the story of the roller hockey is actually...
that's what I want to hear, because I really want to talk about that rink. I really want to talk about you standing in front of the batting cages. But I feel like that could be another like hour-long episode. So we're going to return back to Mike, Cowtowngoalie. You're awesome.
Oh, thank you.
I had so much fun talking to you. You're just a wealth of information. And you know what's the best part, too, is you bring me back to when I started. Because I was just a kid, and I thought I sucked. And I wore cheap Cooper pads that were hand-me-downs. I'm so grateful that I had parents that were like, nah, I'm going to buy you better stuff because you're actually something. And you know what? All roads lead to beer league. So, Mike, thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. And, if you have me back, I'll go through the whole roller hockey thing.
I can't wait to hear that. Yeah, I'm going to have you back. Give me a couple weeks. I mean, my dog just turned 6 months, and my wife's blowing me up that she needs. I apologize. I'm so sorry, but.
Oh, no problem. Life's got to come first, and it is a long story. So, when I
that's going to be that's going to be like part 2 to this episode. So, thank you so much for being on What the Puck podcast.
Oh,
Mike, as always, thank you so much.
Yeah, see you online, and have a good one.
Take care. You too, bud. Cheers.
All right, bye.